Everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 387 for the 17th of March. And let's start off with the statement coming from Alexander Syrsky, who is the commander of the land forces of the Ukrainian forces. His rank is Colonel General, and basically he highlighted where the main fighting is. Currently, he said that the fiercest fighting is around the area of Kreminna, Tosk. Tosk is actually Toske, which is in between Kreminna and Lyman, and Bilohorivka, which is the Luhansk region, Dispute, which is actually Sperne. So, and then he said that the epicenter of the fighting remains to be at Bakhmut. So, what he means is that the most fiercest fighting currently is actually within this region, Toske, Kreminna, and then he mentioned Bilohorivka, and also let's move up a bit. Let's move this. And Sperne, and of course Bakhmut itself, which means that the Toske region, which means the Russian forces push in this area here, seems to be his biggest concern. So this front line here is his biggest concern, and then of course Bakhmut itself. So talking about Bakhmut, so let's go into Bakhmut and let's see what's the update of the situation over at Bakhmut itself. Over at Bakhmut itself, the Russian forces continue to be attacking from the north, from the south, from the southwest and the southwest, as well as at Kromove. And the information in the north of Bakhmut comes from Ryba, the pro-Russian source. In fact, all the information around Bakhmut city is from Ryba, and they say that the assault forces is currently fighting in the area of Vostok Mesh, which is actually this area here. They say that Ukrainian forces has been driven out. They are still fighting in this area here. They are still fighting in the region of Sobashivka, where the Russian forces is still currently engaging in this area. They are also fighting along the road, the street of Mariupolskaya Street, which is actually this street here. This is this Mariupolskaya street, which I believe the fighting is probably around this area here. And of course, it could also be possibility that the Russian forces have pushed northward, but it's very unclear since there isn't very clear mapping around this region from anyone. It's all a lot of gray zones in their mapping. There's also fighting reported in the southwest of Bakhmut, in the area of Vodo Canal, which is basically where the MiG-70 monument is. So the Russian forces currently is still pushing in this area here, and this seems to be one of the most concerning area for the Ukrainian side, because if the Russian forces have control over this road, this will actually complicate the defense of Bakhmut, and the Russian forces can of course continue to move in this area around the city, and allow them to cut off the final retreat route, which is actually here. So the Russian forces don't have to go through in this way, you see. They can actually go through this way, right in the open area. So it is some kind of concern for the Ukrainian forces. And there is fighting reported at Ivanivsky. According to Deep State UA, the Russian forces is trying to approach the town. So far, no success in terms of what the pro-Ukrainian source is reporting. And Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported fighting in the area of Klishevka, which is actually here. Not sure exactly where. I just assume that it's going to be around this canal region here. So, and in the northwest part of Bakhmut city itself, we have geolocation of Russian forces right at this forest line, and because the Russian forces is here, they definitely have a tremendous fire control in this area. As if you look at the distance from the road, is merely 500 meters away. It's a bit far for rifles, but it's definitely in range if they have armored vehicles operating around this region. And this also allowed, at this distance, they also allow the Russian forces to go along the tree line and entrench themselves around this area here, which I believe the Ukrainians are definitely trying to hold some position here to prevent that from happening. This also could possibly means that the Ukrainian forces is currently having this line here on the opposing side, and probably having some of this position along the forest line around this area here. Russian forces definitely, they can do some raids, and then they go back go back kind of thing. This is possible. So this road is definitely not safe for usage for the Ukrainian side. Fighting is also reported towards Bodanivka, according to Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source. Fighting is also reported at Hryhorivka or near to Hryhorivka. According to Suryat maps, the Russian forces managed to capture the northern area. Basically, in his mapping, he mapped it like this. So the Russian forces, to him, in his mapping, have made progress. Although we have already reported this much earlier. So it's some kind of a corroboration of what we have reported. And further up north, we have fighting reported at Orikhovo-Vasilivka. The fighting is still ongoing. We have no idea what is exactly the situation. I seem to see a Ryba mapping on Twitter where they map the Russian forces have already captured this area here. Somehow, during my my plotting of the map, I didn't see this map, so not sure if I missed it or something. And there's also fighting reported towards Privilia. According to Deep State UA, there's the Russian forces is putting pressure in the direction of Privilia, which is very interesting because this is the first time we actually hear of Privilia. Previously, we only hear of Minkivka with the Russian forces pushing in this direction. So now they are now pushing towards Privilia. This is something new to me. So this definitely, the Ukrainian positions, definitely, trying to hold this position because this protects the road. And if this falls, so wrong color, if Russian forces take these 3 towns, they will have a pretty good road until the forest line, which is around here, maybe a bit of here to the canal region, which is actually what you can totally imagine the Russians are using this canal as their new defense line. So that is going to be problematic. And also, what would be the objective? If you have watched the secret plan of the Wagner forces video that I made, the primary objective is right Alexandrivka, because if they go down this road, they secure this canal region, they push up. Once they capture this road is unusable, this road is unusable, then your entire force on the Ukrainian Siversk force around here would have no reinforcement route. If you look at Siversk, the highway is here through Lyman, through Ryhorodok, just south of Lyman. The other road is actually through this town, go through right Alexandrivka, and this is the road. Yeah. So if the Russians able to capture this, they will cut off this road, cut off this road, cut off this road. Then the Ukrainian forces will be in a lot of problems because they will have to traverse through Lyman, and Lyman is not exactly one of the safest place to go, because the Russian forces is really close here, and anytime the Russian forces can actually penetrate through the forest region and cause this entire area to become a battle zone, and the pressure in this area is tremendous. So the situation at Siversk is definitely not looking good. North of it, we have a shelling reported at Pazeno, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The name is Petrovskoye, but the Ukrainian name is Pazeno. So that's all from the Bakhmut front. And since we are talking about Siversk front, we can take a look at the pressure that is being put on the Siversk front with the Russian forces fighting at Fedorivka, Brozdolivka, and Vasily. This is reported by the pro-Ukrainian source Myroshenikov, and he mentioned that the Russian forces continue to be attacking this on a daily basis, although we do not have information that this area here is being fought over on a daily basis. As you can see, there's actually no gray icon that suggests that the previous SITREP mentioned this area here. However, we do have fighting reported at Sperne, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Verkhnokanyamske, and the Russian Defense Ministry reported shelling at Hryhorivka. And so, as per mentioned by the commander of the land forces of Ukraine, he mentioned that this area here, as well as at Bilohorivka, is one of the region that sees the most fiercest fighting, which it doesn't look like it, from our mapping, because the Russians did not talk anything about this area here. They are very quiet about this area here, which is very interesting. And moving on to the Kreminna Front. So, Kreminna Front is here. At the Kreminna Front, since we also just now mentioned about this, there is fighting reported at Dibrova, according to Ryba, where they reported the Russians are pushing, in the several lines of the stronghold from Balka Zaruvka to Toske to Dibrova. So where is that? It's actually this area here. This is actually a valley. It's called the Balka Zaruvka, and the Russian forces is actually pushing in this area here to all the way down south to Toske and Dibrova. So this is what he's trying to say. The front line is currently being pushed by the Russian forces in this area here. But in details, we have fighting reported at Toske, according to Ryba. The Russian Defense Ministry reported shelling at Yampolivka on the 17th and on the 18th. This 18th report just came out within an hour ago as per this recording. So this is actually, very, since it came out, so I might as well just map it in. And Terny also sees shelling, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Ryba reported the Ukrainian sent DRGs, the sabotage and reconnaissance group, into the rear in the area of Zilivka, which Zilivka is actually here, and they say that the Ukrainian forces sent some DRG in this area, and they are equipped with drones, I think, with copter in service, or maybe there's helicopters. I'm not sure. Maybe they use helicopters to send them in. And then, however, the main tide of war in this area is actually in the Russian side, with SITREP maps and Ryba reported that the Russian forces west of Sheveno-Popivka have managed to cross the state line, or the oblast line of this is this line, the Donetsk-Luhansk border line. They managed to push across the line here into Donetsk itself. So this is the latest development over at the Sheveno-Popivka region. And there is also fighting reported around the area of the Balka Zaruvka, which is actually east of Nevsky. And as per Ryba reported in this area here, they fighting reported at Makievka and Nevsky, which is actually Makievka is here. This Makievka, this Nevsky, and then fighting is actually moving in this direction. That's all from the Kreminna Front. And moving on into another hotspot, which is actually the Avdiivka Front. At the Avdiivka Front, the Russian forces managed to progress. According to SITREP maps, they reported that the Russian forces, with collaborating with the Donetsk People's Republic's militia, has overtaken part of the hills that overlooking the railway adjacent to Stopove, which means that this area here has been controlled by the Russian forces, and they now have fire control over the railway line, which is actually this is the railway line. And Stepov is actually here. Stepove is actually here. So far, Ryba and SITREP maps continue to assert that Krasnohorivka has been captured by the Russian forces, which is disputed by Sanya, Florida. And the Ukrainian Deep State UA pro-Ukrainian source continue to map it as such. They haven't changed their mapping just yet. Maybe on their side, they haven't seen any information of the Russian forces capturing to this area that forces the Ukrainians to actually withdraw. They haven't probably haven't seen this just yet. There's shelling being reported at Semenivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. This is pretty much in the rear area, but definitely one of the key objective the Russian forces will definitely want to capture to stave off Avdiivka into an operational encirclement. There's fighting reported at Kayamka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and there's also fighting reported at Avdiivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, which I will continue to map it as per from Opitne, because it doesn't seem like there is actually indication that it's actually from this direction. Fighting continues to be really heavy around this area here, north of Vodian. Fighting continued to be reported at towards Shevene, north of Vodian, according to Ryba. Shevene one is according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The Russian Defense Ministry use the word Tonenke. So everybody is using their own terms. Rybar say Vodian, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry say Srebrene, the Russian Defense Ministry say Tonenke. Probably, but they are more or less the same thing, with the Russian forces pushing in this area here. And there's fighting reported at Povomansky as well, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and there's also fighting reported at Nevelsky, same source. And that's all from the Avdiivka Front, north of Donetsk city. And we go to, where shall we go to next? Just since we go to somewhere nearby, there's fighting reported at Marinka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The Russian Defense Ministry reported shelling at Novomykhailivka. There is no ground offensive in this area here. They just simply shelled the hell out of the Ukrainian forces around this area here, while the front line remains unchanged. And then on the Voleda region is the same. The shelling is being reported on the 17th and on the 18th report by the Russian Defense Ministry. And that's all from the Voleda Marinka region. And over at the Zaporizhzhia line, yesterday we reported a Ukrainian breakthrough, or they rather broke into towards Vasilivka. This attack, as per the report, says that the attack was repulsed. The forces attacking was a DRG forces of the 65th Separate Military Brigade, Separate Mechanized Brigade, and apparently there is no more fighting being reported by Rybar, because Rybar is the only one that talked about this, which means that the front line currently will still be remaining as such. This will continue to be the official front line with no change. There is so my indication was that the Ukrainian forces actually broke through in the highway, and then they went down south. Then on Twitter, I think Jeroman told me that there's a possibility that they actually go through from the eastern side of Kupiansk, and they actually head it through the farmland towards Vasilivka. So this could also be possible with the Russian forces continue to be holding this position, with the Russians still around here. Although this kind of stupid, because if they are ordered to flank them in the rear, then they are all dead meat, which maybe they are already dead meat. The shelling reported at Orekhiv, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Shelling also being reported near Levatne, or at Levatne, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. And that's all from the Zaporizhzhia region. And finally, let's go into the Svatove and Kupiansk region. And the Svatove is actually this town or city over here. Shelling, there's only shelling report in this area at Myasozerivka and Stemekhivka. And further up into the Kupiansk region, we have shelling reported at Berestove and Kotylyarivka, as well as at Sinkivka. The situation over at Kreminna is a bit curious. There's shelling reported at Vorishna, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, in today's report. And then there is shelling being reported near Vorishne yesterday on the 17th report. The Russian Defense Ministry have this new format in their reporting. Suddenly, on the English version of the, at least this is what I saw on the English version of the Ministry of Defense of Russia's Telegram channel, they actually have every single force, every single frontline's representative to actually brief what is happening on their line. And the one so-called part of the Zapat group, which actually in charge of the fighting around this region here, reported Ukrainian forces attacking Kreminna. And so I indicate it as such. So this is a new approach. I'm not sure if they will sustain to do it on a daily basis. And however, Rybar and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians are the one actually attacking in the Kreminna region. They are the one attacking, and apparently there seems to be some kind of breakthrough for the Russian sides, because the Ukrainian forces reportedly have crossed the river at Oskil, crossed the Oskil River around the Kreminna region because of they are unable to hold the line anymore. So they are forced into redrawing into the right bank of the Oskil River after the Russians are able to establish control over certain stronghold. of the Ukrainian forces in this area here, which is actually here. So yeah, but of course, usually when you saw reports of withdrawals of Ukrainian or Russian forces, any withdrawal of forces report, always take it with a pinch of salt, because they can withdraw and then they can also send troops in, and then in the end it's just a rotation. So don't read it too much into that. And that's all from the Kupyansk front. So Kupiansk is actually this city here. This is Kupiansk. And that's all for the summary of the day of 387 for the 17th of March. And I will see you in the next. Oh yeah, press the like button, subscribe if you have not subscribed. And have a happy weekend. And I'll see you in the next update.